In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Mat by Substance Painter. Now, Mat is a contest where thousands of artists compete against each other to create the most creative Mat mascot there is. Mat is a mascot by Substance Painter that is default built into the program, so we're going to be taking a look at that today. Before we jump into Substance Painter and start texturing, I'm just gonna scroll down to a couple of entries that won the contest. So first place was this Mat, and there are a lot more different versions of it. So today we're going to be making specifically this one, this Mat, but there are a lot of other options that you can do as well. Now let's jump into the program and start our texturing. To open up the mascot and the model, it's already pre-built into the program. We just have to go to File, Open Sample, and let's open up the Mat. We can see that we already have it imported. It's consisted of 3 different texture sets, so head, body, and the base, and it's already pre-baked, so we don't need to do any sort of baking, low as high, so we can just start our texturing. Now, before we do any texturing, I'm going to do the same process that we did in the previous video and just refine our viewport a little bit. So go to the display settings, enable the shadows, bring down the opacity to around 80%, like so, and then just maybe bump up the anti-aliasing and set the quality to medium. Now we can get a much clearer view of our model. Before we do anything else, I have a PureRef tab opened up on my second monitor, so I can see both of my references at the same time. Let's start by doing the head. So we're going to be going over the 3 parts, so the head, the body, and the base, one by one. And we're going to be texturing them separately. Now I am going to be working in orthographic view, so F6. You can also change the view up here, so perspective view and orthographic view, because that's my preferred way of working. Okay, let's start with the head. So before we do anything, we're going to search for the base material of our head. We can see that our head is golden, so I'm going to search in my Smart Materials tab for gold and see what comes up. The default gold damage material is pretty close to the basic material that we have in our Mat, but we do have to do some adjustments. Now, whenever you add a material from Substance Painter onto your model, you can always adjust it to your liking. I'm going to select the color of our material and maybe add a little bit more yellow to it. Something maybe like this. A little bit more saturation. Now, I don't want to have all of these scratches. I want to create them on my own. So I'm going to delete the roughness stains, and I'm also going to delete the dirt. Also the roughness grain and the surface grain as well. So maybe get something like this. Now let's start layering in our details. First of all, I'm going to add a new fill layer. I'm going to disable everything except for the roughness and add some roughness details. Now we can go to the textures tab in our assets and search for grunges. Now Substance Painter by default has a lot of grunges that you can use for your projects. So we can see that it's sort of scratched, so maybe we can type in scratch as well. So maybe something like this. Let's invert it something like this maybe. And let's bring down the opacity of that layer. Just change the base color to have the roughness channel and bring down the opacity. And now we can see some of those details. Apart from that, we can also add the same map maybe to the height channel, because it's still a black and white image like this, and decrease the height opacity as well. So just have some small subtle details. Let's add a couple more of these details as well. So another fill layer, and let's disable everything except for the roughness, and maybe add some more grunges. Maybe something like this. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And let's just decrease it a little bit in the opacity. Maybe something like this. Once we're done with that, we want to create a new layer for the front of our model. So we can see that in the front face of our model, it's a different gold. So I'm just going to search for gold again and add one more to our model. Now I'm going to use a black mask and just fill up with a polygon fill. With the polygon fill tool, I'm going to fill my front facing shell. So maybe I can just go from the side and grab all of my polygons like this. Yep, that's fine. Maybe bring down the saturation on our gold now a little bit. And for now, I think we are fine. After that, I'm going to add a new fill layer outside of the mask, so above the gold damage, like so, and just make it a dirt layer. I'm going to get a dirty color, something like this maybe. Add a new mask. First of all, disable the metallic value, the normal and the height, and only leave the roughness and the color. Now add a new black mask, and I'm going to start adding generators. So add a dirt generator and just play around with the dirt level and grunge amount a little bit. I can also alt click on the mask to see how it affects the whole model. So something like this. Now I'm going to select all of my materials, group them up, put them into a folder, and type in fills. Now this is going to be all of my fill layers, and above those I'm going to have another folder that's going to be only paint layers. So let's start using some paint layers to get the details in the front of the meat map. So I'm going to add a new layer, and first of all I'm going to create the centerpiece. So how I'm going to do that is by getting a paintbrush So one, selecting a color. I can also use the color picker to select the same color that is on my reference. I can also enable the symmetry so I know exactly, let me just use the brush outline for now, so I can see exactly where the middle part is. And also I'm going to use the height channel as well to bring that detail upwards, something like this. Maybe not one, but let's try something a little bit lower, maybe like this, even lower. Yeah, that seems fine. I'm also going to work in my F2 view mode because I don't really need to look at my UV map right now. I'm going to try to center it just a little bit better, and I think that's fine. Now let's do the outer circles as well. So the way I'm going to do those is by using a normal map. So I'm going to disable the color and the height and just use a normal map. And now we can search in the textures tab for normal, and we see that we have a beveled circle. Now I'm going to increase my brush and just try to be as accurate as I can. Something like this, and afterwards maybe something like, or let me just use the full preview for now, and something like this. Now, you might think that this is way too much, way too deep, but it's better to have more details now so we can later dial it down. So maybe I can go to my normal channel and just dial down the normal map like this. Then if rather than having it lower than I would like to before. After that, we're going to start creating the letters and the numbers. And the way we're going to be doing that is by selecting the height channel, also the color channel, because I can see that the numbers are darker a little bit. So for now, let's take the same color that is inside of our, maybe we can rename this to front of the head, front head. Or even better, I'm just going to name it face. I'm going to name this layer dirt, and I'm going to name this layer head. Like so. Let's go to the base color. And let's just use this same color. So we can copy the hex code from here, paste it inside of our base color right here, and just darken it a little bit, maybe saturate it a little bit more and just darken it. So let's see how that would look like. Also, I think I want to enable the metallic value as well. Yeah, so because I want that part to be less metallic than the front of the head or the face. Also, I can see that my environment is a little bit too bright right now, and I want to tone it down a little bit. I can use the environment exposure and just lower it down just a little bit so I can see my model a little bit better. Something like this. Okay, so let's start creating the details. I actually want to split the letters and the numbers into a separate paint layer. So I'm just going to name this middle details. And I'm going to add a new paint layer and name these letters First of all, let's try to find the stars. So I'm going to use the height into with a negative value. So it's going to be indented into the model. And also I'm going to be using an alpha mask. The way we do that is in the same sense that we did with the previous video. So when we created decals for the spider bot, we're going to be using an alpha mask. So in the alpha channel of our brush, we're going to click it and just type in font. Now, when we type in font, we can see that we have a couple of different fonts that we can use, and we can try to find the one that's the closest to our model. Now, I know that I won't be able to find the exact same font that is used in our reference, so I'm going to be using someone that is pretty similar to mine and just going with that one. So let's, first of all, in the text channel, let's just type in the first letter that we want. So when we type in the text, type in 1, we set the size of our brush, and we just click once on our model. Now we can see that we can stamp that number or letter. Now I'm going to start stamping all of them. So first one is 1 and the second one is 2. And each time I stamp another letter, I'm just going to rotate it by a little bit. So once again, by holding down Control and on your left button, you can rotate your brushes around. Now I can see that in my reference, the top part and the bottom part of my model are the same. So it's flipped one way on the other. So I'm going to activate the symmetry. Now, instead of using the mirror Y, like so, I'm going to be using the radial symmetry. Now, radial symmetry is a point. You can see that point right now is over here, and that point is where all of our dots will be. It will be the source of all of our dots. Now I'm going to use the manipulator and place the dot somewhere in the middle of our model, like this. Now I can see that I can stamp however many times I want. Now I'm going to use it only twice, so go back to the settings, and I'm going to change the count to 2, like so. Now whenever I stamp an image on one side, it will automatically be placed on the other side as well. So let's start creating our text. I'm going to type in 1 and start to type all of the other letters as well. So every time I'm just rotating my brush just a little bit. And I'm also going to stamp up 2 stars on both of my sides. So in the alpha, I'm going to search for star. Or maybe just scroll down and find anything that is similar. Or maybe something like this. Maybe a little bit smaller, and just that bit rotated. Once we are done with that, we can continue on with our body. Let's click on the texture set on the body. Also, a shortcut to click on any texture set is by holding down Ctrl Alt and right clicking on that part of your character. It will automatically change to that texture set. So let's go to the body. First of all, we can see that it is it's kind of like a plastic material. So I'm going to search for plastic, and I think I'm gonna go with, let's try plastic matte for now. Yeah, it's pretty accurate for now. Bring up my my environment exposure a little bit more, and also I'm going to saturate, delete the default layer, and also saturate my red just a little bit more. So brighten it up and saturate it a little bit, like so. Now I do like the roughness grunges. I think it's pretty similar to my model, but I don't actually like the damages, so I'm going to remove that one. And I'm also going to remove the dust. Actually, I'm going to keep the dust. I think it looks pretty fine. For the stripe details, I'm going to add a new fill layer and remove all of my channels except for the height channel. And I can search in either lines or maybe stripes into my textures tab in my assets folder. So I'm going to select the stripes and add them to my height channel. And now I'm just going to play around with the rotation and scale to get sort of like the same effect that's on my model. Maybe something like this. And also play around with the tiling, increase it to have sort of the same effect. With something like this, around 10 I think would be fine. Yeah, I think that's fine. Now I'm just going to reduce the height opacity of my, I'm going to reduce the height opacity of my fill layer by a lot, just to have it a little more subtle on my model. Maybe 1 or I think 2 would look better. Yeah, something like this. Now I'm going to add my text in the same way I added it to the top of the head. So I'm going to group these two and name them fills. And now just add a new paint layer with a let's see, with only a color value of black. We said that we never want to go 100% black, so just go somewhere in between, a little bit above. Okay, in the alpha, I'm going to change it once again to font, and I think this one, the Black Ops, maybe the closest one we can get. So let's try heavy. Let's see how it looks like. It's pretty close. I think it would look fine. Now I'm going to reset my angle, so I know that it's completely flat, and I can start stamping onto my character like so. Then I'm going to maybe just a little bit higher and a little bit bigger, even bigger, something like this. Yeah, and then just continue on. Next up is the 70mm with capital millimeters. Scale it down a little bit. Add it like so. And then the last part as well, maybe just a little bit smaller. And add the last part as well, so 2 3/4 of an inch. And just make that smaller as well. Now I can see that on the back view, I also have made in USA. So I'm going to type that as well. Now, if my text does not fit in my brush, that means that the size of the text is too big. So by decreasing the size of my text, I can see that now it fits into the into my brush. Now let's stamp that to the back as well. Maybe, yeah, like that. And now let's just roughen these texts up. So first of all, I'm going to go to the base color, and I'm just going to bring down the opacity of the base color slightly, to something like 90%, maybe 95, just so that I can get the subtle effect of the red passing through the main color. Now, other than that, I'm also going to add a white mask, and I'm going to add a generator, which would be dirt, because I want to roughen the text just a little bit. So I'm going to increase the dirt level. I'm first of all going to invert my mask, and I'm going to decrease the dirt level a little bit. I'm going to increase the grunge amount by a lot, and then decrease the dirt level once more. Maybe a little bit more, and then just bring down the opacity of that layer. Bring it back just a little bit. Another thing that we need to do is add some of those dirt details onto our character. We can see that it's not that much of a dirt color, but more of a black color, so something like stains. So let's just rename our layers. Let's rename this to stripes. And let's add a new fill layer that's going to be only color, maybe roughness as well. We'll see. And just make it black. Add a new black mask, add a generator, and add maybe dirt to that generator. Yeah, like this. And just play around with the settings once more. So increase the grunge amount as well, bring the dirt level down. And after that, I'm just going to bring the base color channel, the opacity of the base color channel down by quite a lot. Maybe to something like 60 or 70. 70 would look fine. Yep. Maybe bring down the grunge amount as well, just a little bit. And also I'm going to play around with the roughness as well. Something like this. And I think we got pretty much the same result. Maybe I just need to go to the plastic base and increase the red value a little bit more. I can also play with the RGB, add some more blue maybe to my model. And I think it looks even better now. And for the last part, for the base, we just need to find some sort of a steel material. Maybe steel dark. Let's try another one. I think this one looks better. It might be the same one that's used in the reference as well. And there we have it. We have our character finished up. Now, we can always play around with all of these settings, so maybe go back to the body. I can see that now in my text, it should be a lot more contrasted. In the dirt mask. And there are a lot of other changes that you can do to make your character resemble the reference a little bit better, and also to just get the overall aesthetic of the character better. But we've come quite far. So another thing I'm going to do before wrapping this up is just to decrease the normal value of my middle details like this, and also the height, so that it looks a little bit more natural. And there we have it.